I will be in the lucky spot tonight to host Dom, Christoph, and Constantijn here from Eviden. Most of you guys probably already heard the good news, but for everyone that did not yet, IOTA and Eviden are partnering on the Eviden Digital Passport Solution, or in short, EDPS. And it is one of the first digital product passports to hit the market. And you guys have been handing in a lot of questions, and it will be our pleasure to address them here. I'm your host, Jonathan, and just in case that there are people here unfamiliar with either IOTA or Eviden, I would say it would make sense to do a very quick round of introductions. Dom, maybe you want to kick it off with that.
Sure. I mean, like looking back at IOTA, we've been in the market now since 2015. And the main reason why we founded IOTA in 2015 was really to focus on real world adoption, right? Because we were in crypto for a long time. And we always believed that there's so many more use cases beyond the typical crypto related use cases, right? Where you're minting tokens and trading them, so to say. But that blockchain itself really has applications and is really on its path to create impact across all the different industries and all the different sectors. And so this is why we founded IOTA as sort of the technology backbone of this. And this is also why we founded the IOTA Foundation as this trusted partner to work with the industry and work with governments so that they would have somebody to reach out to, so to say, right? Somebody to interact with when using IOTA in their production environments. And so obviously it's really exciting to see what Eviden has built and how we came together with them to support them on their journey to build this product, bring it to the market, and obviously use IOTA in a unique way. So this is why we're very excited to see this product coming to life on IOTA.
Right on. Christoph, maybe some quick opening words from you as well.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, as many of you know, I have been an advocate for IOTA for a long time. Recently, as the director for technology adoption, and the sole task of that quite new department is, as Dom already explained, to make IOTA adopted in the real world, in the B2B, in the company world, as opposed to more speculative like meme coins. Technology adoption does not play there. We are going for several focus domains like circular economy, digital product passports, supply chain automation, which play a relevant role for solving industry problems, corporate problems. And we have actually longer relationships with Eviden, even before I came to the foundation, but nevertheless, the opportunity which we are now pursuing together with Eviden, with the EDPS, is one of the first, I would say, successes of the new department. And I think Tom is expecting us to continue in that way. So every quarter, another Eviden. Let's see how that turns out. But we are certainly poised to see corporate business adoption as opposed to any speculative adoption of blockchain. This is also what the European Union, by the way, wants. There are speculative and other uses, of course, for DLTs, but my focus, DLT focus, evidence, and our EDPS focus is on corporate B2B adoption. And we are poised, everyone, to bring that into fruition. I think I hand over to Constantijn for evidence point of view.
Will be hard to match you, Christoph, but I'll try. For the ones that don't know Eviden, because our name is relatively new and young, we're all about data and technology. I think what's good to point out is that we are, I think in one word, best summarized, digital. Because in the end, everything that we do for our customers, and we are truly a global company all around the world in all kind of industries, quite literally, we find new ideas to work on every day because we're in that many topics. But digital is kind of our core identity, because in the end, what we do is we try and create a better digital world of tomorrow. And we do that with partners, we do that with our customers, but we certainly intend to do so with IOTA as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So I would say for this AMA, I think it makes sense that I read out some of the questions. And if you have anything to say, then please just chime in. Likewise, if there is anything that you want to pick up that somebody else has been putting out there, please feel free to. Let's keep this conversational. But nonetheless, let's get some initial questions out of the way that will be instrumental in creating some initial context. And I think those will go to you, Constantijn. So starting out, maybe you can talk a little bit about how this partnership came to be and why is it coming to fruition now?
Okay, so I love this question because it's very close to my passion. Actually, I've been a community member of IOTA itself ever since 2017 and 2018. And when I joined my employer about 4 years ago, I set off on a personal mission together with one of my good colleagues and even better friends named Thomas Quintoros to try and bring IOTA to our corporate environment because we were convinced of the benefits it can bring to our world tomorrow. And we decided to try and get this done with a corporate, which has now brought us here. But it has been because of the personal motivation. And I would, on that extent, invite anyone here, anyone in the IOTA community, that if you have good ideas, if you are convinced that IOTA can contribute to a better world, then to try and start working on them and try and knock on the door of the IF. Because Christoph is there, Dominik is there, they are listening, they have got ideas, and you can make things happen. We're quite literally the living example of that. And I think with the recent move of creating a department for technology adoption, that has made it a lot of things a lot easier for anyone looking to try and do something with IOTA. So that's a bit of the background context of that. But it is really possible to go from a community member to build a solution together and now be here in the AMA.
Awesome. Yeah, very powerful opening statement there. So let's also get out of the way. What is the vision or the spirit behind the partnership that we are talking about here tonight?
Okay. I love this question as well, because when we in Eviden started thinking about to see if we can do something together with IOTA, we visualized something like a Formula One team, where Eviden has already started quite some work on the DPP solution itself. But with any good Formula One team, you need good partners. You need engineers from all sides, from all topics to make the car really win the race. And that's kind of how we started looking at it when we first got into conversations with IOTA, is that we said like, okay, we've got a Formula One car here, but we need a high performing team around it. And everyone needs to bring a component of the car to the car, if you will. And that's how we kind of got rolling. And that's also how we kind of found or kind of a little bit of the catchphrase, if you will, powered by IOTA, because IOTA will perform as the engine of our solution. It's a core component of what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, lovely.
Maybe I can chime in. Sorry, Jonathan.
Please.
Because that's literally true. The picture, the image, the metaphor of a Formula One car being powered by IOTA, but needing a team of two dedicated team people is something which guided us even to the top management level throughout our discussions. And we had, I think, over 100, I counted them recently, over 100 bilateral meetings and conversations to make that work. And we did that in record time. So it took us only a couple of months to solve that. And what I have really to credit Eviden is, Eviden has 50,000 employees. So this is a large organization, an international organization. And the IOTA Foundation is growing by 10%, but still we have, I think, 110, 120 people. So this is like a small boat and a tanker working together, but actually that's the wrong picture. It's a Formula One team working together. And this is really how it felt, even in difficult situations, in all the contractual issues. And you have legal, you have tax, you have different financial things to bring to an end. It was more like a Formula One team where everyone wants to win the race, because if someone gets his will, we won't win the race. This is a long-term investment, and we need to be both on the same side and pull that. That's really fantastic. So I'm very much looking forward to how that is going to evolve. So the first few months, with the kind of difficulty, the involved, intricate negotiations turned out to be really well. And we never, as IOTA, and I come from a corporate background, we never felt, like a third-class citizen, and then please stay in your corner, and then we ask you when we need you. I think that's the Formula One metaphor, which is due to Tomasz and Constantijn, I have to really admit, is a perfect picture how we approach that kind of partnership. Really, it's amazing that this works with a large organization like Eviden, which is for our customers, honestly, because they understand how big tankers move, which is for our customers a very, very good sign.
Lovely analogy. We should definitely run with that. And of course, very fair to say that Eviden is indeed like a huge player, tapping into many industries. Today, we are mainly going to be discussing the DPP, but I'm wondering, are there any other use cases that might become relevant rather soon?
I wish I could say more on this because indeed there is activity in the background in different topics. And that's also perfectly in line with the spirit of the partnership, that we're not just looking at DPP to work together with IOTA, but we are looking at different topics as well. And one of the cool things actually is a real example is once we had the announcement last week, we had some colleagues reach out to us from around the world that I didn't personally know. And they said like, hey guys, it's awesome that we're doing this stuff with IOTA, but actually I've got a different topic and how can we make things go together? So we are seeing traction in different topics as well. And that's absolutely also part of the spirit of the partnership, to do more in different domains, completely outside the scope of DPP. And I hope that we can announce something relatively quickly, maybe Q3 still, but we will have to see.
I have to add to Constantine's the remark that we are in constant exchange of ideas. So everyone is able to throw in ideas, and definitely from an IOTA perspective, we will draw on the whole ecosystem of things we have done in the past, things where we have experienced, things where we are doing right now, accelerator programs, grants. So we take everything, we will bring everything which we can into the partnership, discuss that openly, and being aware that this is a business, a corporate partnership. Of course, if there is enough market traction and we can justify the investment, we will pursue that for the greater good of the society and for both of our organizations, of course.
Great. So we are about to get into the user questions. Let's just get out of the way. What is the Eviden standpoint on the IOTA technology and your viewpoint on where we are taking the project? Maybe you can let us know some thoughts about this topic before we dive into the questions that we collected here on Discord.
Sorry, Jonathan, I think my connection dropped. Was that question for me?
Yeah, exactly. I'll rephrase. So basically, I've been wondering, what is the Eviden viewpoint of the technology stack here of IOTA and where we are taking the project? Maybe you can let us know some thoughts in this direction.
I think the perspective that we have on the IOTA's technology stack is very positive. Internally, we have certainly taken a note of the stuff that IOTA has done, for example, on EPSI, but also the IOTA EVM is well regarded, and we certainly intend to make use of these things. But also, I would say, maybe it wasn't a technology question, but like the regulatory efforts that the IOTA Foundation is taking to advance the adoption of blockchain in EU, but also in the rest of the world, that is definitely something that we welcome.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. I think we gathered some initial context to get everybody here on the same page. So that is a good time to be diving into the user questions. And we are starting out with Artbyte Addict. And he is wondering, what are the primary features of the digital passport solution that is powered by IOTA?
I'll take that one. Unless Dom or Christoph want to have a word on this?
Maybe supplementing it later.
Okay. I think one of the main primary features for DPP solution is the fact that we are really able to collect and use all kinds of data from kind of cradle to the grave. And we can do so in a very scalable manner, but at the same time also still in a very safe and absolutely secure manner. respecting self-sovereignty of our customers, but also at the same time offering, I would say, a economical approach, because sometimes with scale things get very expensive, but we believe we have found or we have developed some very good features that allows it to scale at economy, while still respecting the self-sovereignty. This is always something that has been very important to us, very important to our customers, because any DPP will handle crucial data in an ecosystem, in a supply chain, and you need to ensure that the features that your product has can ensure that.
Yeah, maybe I take the opportunity to add why we are using a DLT at all. I think this is a question later on, which I gathered. And I think there are 4+3 elements why a DLT solution makes sense. And there are the 4 typical non-functional requirements a DLT perfectly fulfills, which are also needed for any product passport: traceability, persistence, data reduction, because everything is on chain, and the consensus mechanism. But why are these 4 non-functional criteria so difficult to achieve for battery passports, for other types of passports? And that has to do with the complexity driver of the ecosystems we are talking about. I don't know whether you know how large the size of the automotive supply chain is. Short guess, 254,000 organizations. There is no way those are gonna align behind one of the great platform vendors. So you have a very fragmented, with small and large players, a very fragmented, very large supply chain with a considerable lack of trust between all these players. And this is exactly the sweet spot for DLTs. It's not point to point. Please go on, use FTP or WeTransfer. It's not a platform in the middle because of the large and huge fragmentation and size. This is the sweet spot for DLT. It's another question later on, but I think it features and it fixes the conception why we are using a DLT at all.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the main points to point out here as well, that I guess the DLT will act as the coordination mechanism in such an ecosystem, in such a supply chain. You really need something like that to be able to do it in a trustful way, especially with crucial data.
Absolutely, yeah. That was what I meant with consensus. Yeah, we could even think of a DAO later on, but that's maybe in the future.
Yeah, that sounds definitely like a topic for another AMA coming up. But Artbyte Addict is also wondering what industries or sectors would see the most benefit from a digital passport application. Of course, the first version here is about automobile batteries, but maybe you have some other ideas already for this.
I can take that if needed.
Go on, Christoph. Sure.
Yeah, because there are about 12 to 15 industries as per the well-known Eco-Design for Sustainable Products regulation, which came into effect earlier this year. And depending on the prioritization, you have batteries, which will need in the latest in 2027 a passport. You have the construction business, you have iron and steel, you have aluminum, textiles, furniture, including mattresses. So the thing you lay down on your bed will have a digital product passport. Look for your barcode. Furniture, tires, detergents, paints, lubricants, chemicals, energy, including even then later on ICT technology products. Everyone will have in the time period until 2030, that's the idea of the SPR regulation, every single piece of material will be required to have a digital product passport. So that is the vision behind the EDPS. The prioritization needs to be sorted out in the various committees of the European Commission. You can look that up yourself, the legal wording in Article 18. But there is a host of other industries coming up and lined up who are all in need of a battery, of a product, of a digital product passport solution.
Yeah, and we in Eviden are definitely seeing some of the first momentums in different industries as well. For example, fabrics, we hear some noise in this direction. I think I can mention construction materials, consumer electronics, Those are not, let's say, the pilot test cases for DPP, but there are people in those industries that's already kind of knocking on the door, asking for initial conversations because these things are coming. And for anyone maybe still wondering about how big an impact digital product passports will have on the world, it's literally global. Yes, it's coming from EU regulation, but anyone that basically wants to put a battery on the market in EU will need to have such a DPP, no matter if you're in Chile, Iceland, South Africa, Vietnam, Australia, no matter where you are. If you want to export to the EU, you will need such a passport. It's not just for the EU, it's for everyone, and that will be for every single passport for these products. So the impact of this is enormous.
Yeah, it sounds like a very good spot to be in with all of these regulatory issues coming up. So yeah, great to hear. We have another question that is about the existence of any pilot programs or partnerships. Is there anything in place today that is implementing the DPP solution?
All I can say on that is that we are definitely having very intensive discussions with customers in different industries. I'm going to have to leave it at that.
Yeah, fair enough. And then we have Jojo. There's a bunch of letters coming after that. So first of all, congratulations on the collaboration and wanting to pass that on. And the question is the DPP solution currently active on the IOTA mainnet and generating traffic already?
I can take that, Constantijn, if you agree. Currently not. We have, as the first part of our joint project, we have kind of a technology consolidation phase where we will bring the current solution, which is built, and this is another question, or which was built on Hyperledger Besu, how to move that directly to ISC, IOTA Smart Contracts chains. For historic reasons, the private ISC chains or app chains will be the first thing we deploy, but we have already the plans and ideas how to move that to the public IOTA EVM. So currently it's not active on the IOTA mainnet and generating traffic, but we have that on the roadmap. And what is also interesting is, and I can't tell you anything more, of course, the next generation of IOTA with layer 1 programmability. So we are also closely working together and discussing this option together. But it's too early to give any release dates for that. But definitely that's the direction we want to go.
Awesome. Yeah, our socials will be the best place to learn about anything in this direction.
Absolutely.
Following up on that, does the DPP usage require holding IOTA?
I'd also take that. Initially, most probably not, because private ISC chains, app chains can fix that in the governance contract of the smart contract chains, and so potentially not. If you have read the ISC white paper, then you know that there are almost any combination is possible. No fees, no gas budgets, no fees, but fixed gas budget per contract, gas budgets fees, IOTA per gas price. I'm not repeating that, but there are a lot of options. But for private ISC chains, most probably you will be required to hold IOTA. For the public IOTA EVM deployment, in the current setup, you would need to hold IOTA tokens. I forgot to query that. There is a function get fee policy where you could query the Explorer or any node of that. What's the current ratio? I forgot to do that for time reasons. But yes, how to exactly use the gas mechanisms of ISC chains to enable latency and non-congestions is part of that technology adaptation phase we do initially.
Yeah, great. Let's go to GJ and 3 exclamation marks. Very forward-thinking question, and that is, are there technical milestones on IOTA that you're looking forward to that improve how DPP operates?
I would have some to offer, but Constantijn, please chime in. I think the most important one for that solution, not for everyone, is actually not core decide. It's IOTA with layer 1 programmability. So that's the most important, really future milestone. As everyone knows, we are very intensively working on providing and making a plan how to do that exactly. So that is also factored into our joint partnership agreement that once this is available, that we want to explore how to really use that because everything is integrated, it's seamless. You don't need layer 1, layer 2 bridges, token transfer payments. You can seamlessly, so without any scalability, bridging, whatever side chain, parasite chain stuff, without any complexities, you could do that. But we also are used to a professional approach to that. So the technology adoption adaptation phase will start phase by phase, and we will not try to overtake ourselves by focusing on any future things which might come. But we will provide, this is what our customers need, workable solutions, sellable solutions, all the way until we hit IOTA with layer 1 programmability. I don't know if you want to add something.
Couldn't have said it better, Christoph.
Wonderful, but we are not done with the future things that might come, because the next question is going to be about the throughput of IOTA. Will that suffice, assuming that DPPP will generate a lot of traffic?
The answer, I take that the answer is a clear yes. Eviden did an enormous amount of testing on private chains regarding throughput and latency and other requirements, NFRs, non-functional requirements. So actually we know quite a bit, or actually Eviden shared that information with us about these requirements. And based on that data and our current IOTA core technology and how EDPS is going to use our DLT, we can, quote, guarantee, unquote, the required throughput. No question about it. We will make sure that this is going to happen. And we know the means how to ensure that. So that's not a problem.
By the way, one point that I want to highlight about all of this, and this is really something that also was one of the reasons why we ended up working with Eviden, because we really closely aligned on our vision of the future, is that this foundational base layer for industries and for the adoption of DLTs must be a public network, right? Because only through that you will be able to get this interoperability. And that's exactly how we're positioning IOTA, that IOTA is going to be this foundational layer on which you will be able to process payments, tokenize assets, and also automate certain functions, right? Or even build entire applications through the IOTA layer 1. Now, of course, for certain requirements where you need the privacy, where you have your own contained ecosystem, you will be able to deploy your own permissioned layer 2 chain. But the important part is that it always anchors into the layer 1 and potentially in the future also share the security with the layer 1 to some extent. Because through that, you will be able to get this interoperability where these DPPs that are registered on a private permissioned ISC chain, right, on the layer 2, will be able to transfer to other users across the entire network, right? Whether that's on the layer 1 or whether that's another permissioned layer 2 chain. I think through that, we will really be able to capture a lot of the adoption, because if you look at DPPs, we're really thinking about millions of devices that are being registered and being tokenized, so to say, right? And that really opens up new possibilities on how to, open up new use cases for them.
And I think one of the practical examples that we see in the industries is that by EU mandate, you need to be able to take care of the transfer of ownership. And that sounds relatively easy, but things get relatively complex. Once a certain manufacturer, for example, goes out of business and they were the owner of the DPP, how do you transfer the ownership of that DPP to somewhere else? Because as long as the product is alive and not recycled, you need to be able to guarantee that. And if you want to do the transfer of ownership, I think a DLT like IOTA is one of the best ways to do it, simply because you have the interoperability.
Yeah, thanks for that. That is making a ton of sense. We are moving on to Recro's question, and that is, will digital passports be chain agnostic, or will they be limited to IOTA's underlying tech?
I can answer that. Constantijn, if you want.
Sure.
Yeah. So in principle, the EDPS is chain agnostic and would support any EVM-based chain, the plus or minus any portability and interoperability differences, of course. And I already told you that it has initially been built on top of Hyperledger Bezo. But due to our partnership and the whole package we provide, we do not provide just code. Anyone can go to GitHub and copy the source code and run it, and without us even knowing, even clone and fork it. But IOTA will be for the whole package. I think there is a question around that later on. Will be the first choice which we will offer our joint customers and for new releases. But Dom already highlighted, we will honor any sound and strict requirements of certain industries, certain customers for an alternative technology basis. I mean, if you look in the defense sector, they probably will never have anything public. I mean, where the trolls of the Russian Empire can do any shenanigans. You won't want to do that. But this will be limited to instances where there are sound requirements, business requirements, and not just kind of prejudice against the interoperable chains of IOTA. So it's IOTA first choice. This is why it's powered by IOTA. But we are in the corporate world. 100% market share is unachievable. We recognize that, and it's better to have alternative solutions like with private chains, like Dominik told, for other requirements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree, but for sure, IOTA is our default and preferred solution that we offer to the market. 100%.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think it makes sense to follow up with Gecko's question. And he is saying that he believes Eviden has explored to use Hyperledger. Obviously now it ended up being IOTA, and he is wondering what features have swayed you to go with IOTA instead.
Would you start with that, or shall I answer? I have the package answer.
Go for it, Christoph.
Yeah, I already started hinting at that. It's no longer just technology which determines the selections of DLTs. Technology eventually, and this is in all industries, will become a commodity. So there will be only a few DLTs left with minor differences in latency. Who cares? It's for the reason why Eviden, at least from our point of view, as it transpires to us, why Eviden has chosen IOTA is because they get a full package. Hyperledger, if you go to that, you get code. That's it. With IOTA, you get a package including, for instance, co-innovation. Hyperledger is not going to co-innovate with you in other fields like DPP. They don't care because this is code. Go to GitHub, fork it. But we do that together, and even that's part of our obligations. We want to do that. For instance, share our results in the European blockchain sandbox. So Eviden is participating there as well, giving additional insight into regulatory processes, because Eviden, for reasons, is not going to go there, but focus on the business side of things. And of course, we have an DPP ecosystem, so we are trying to leverage that as well. You know that we have a slate of IOTA products like higher level frameworks, like the identity framework, tokenization, where we provide ready-made frameworks, libraries of doing things easier on a higher level than layer 1 and layer 2. And within technology adoption, we have a department with Adrian, Adrian is managing that, which is defining such type of generalized products. And this is what you get when you go with IOTA. You get technology adoption, you get that support, including, of course, marketing. I mean, this AMA, for instance, is not possible with Hyperledger. They won't care if you use that or not. But for us, it's a Formula One team. It's a team sport. We do that together to the extent where we have, of course, our focus areas. I will not become a specialist in digital product passport regulation, even though I'm a hobby lawyer, but I leave that to the Eviden guys.
Yeah, and I would say, like, for us, for Eviden, it was important that we find a partner that doesn't just supply the engine and then tells us, like, okay, good luck with it, integrate it, and we will hope it will work for you. For us, it was indeed much more than the technology in itself. Even though the technology, of course, is excellent, we indeed were also looking at the bigger package. It's very difficult, I think, for anyone to ignore and not to recognize the efforts that IOTA has done with EPSI, the results that have been made there, and also at the marketing efforts, the market recognition. We know from first-hand experience that people in the market, some of our customers, they are asking about IOTA. They are aware of the technology. They are aware of the things that are happening. So it makes a lot of sense to take all these things into account and say, like, yep, that's the right partner for us to enter this familiar race in.
Yeah, that is a great perspective to learn of. We have Christoph, another Christoph, asking about whether Eviden already started internal sales campaigns and whether account teams are already aware of the DPP solution.
I think it makes most sense if I take that one. So the answer in short is yes, we have done so, and we are continuing to do so with a lot of awareness sessions. We're getting a lot of questions currently from a lot of account teams that want to get some updates on certain things and then take it to their customers. So yes, we are doing a lot of internal work to make people aware and then also take it to the market.
Awesome. Let me follow up with another question of Christoph here, and that is, are there any RFPs already in which customers can work on the... Hang on, let me reread that question again. Are there already RFP of customers on which you are working to position the solution? Now I got it right.
Short answer, yes. And because of NDAs, I cannot say more.
Yeah, that is only fair. Thanks for tackling the question nonetheless. Let's move to Happy Camper 404. So IOTA has partnered with Digimarc and Zebra to develop DPP solutions. Are there any plans or recognized opportunities to work with existing partners in this direction?
Maybe I can give a little bit of insight there. Digimarc and Zebra, we have at least 3 other partners already procured through our technology adoption department, which we actually did not yet announce, so stay tuned. But we have not yet defined, the contract has been signed a couple of days ago. We have not yet defined how exactly we jointly approach the whole ecosystem of DPPs and the circular economy of which IOTA has and will continue to grow. But I would say that this is definitely on our to-do list for the go-to-market approach, besides the technology adaptation part. So we are very glad that we have a larger DPP kind of solution area already. But we will work together how to exploit that together with the partners, because we have different IP realms, of course, intellectual property realms, different specializations. So I think we should definitely put that on our to-do list to capitalize on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would say that it's only like a fair recognition of the fact that IOTA, I think, fits very well for the purpose of DPP. And Digimarc and Zebra, we are internally aware of them, very aware, because Zebra is actually one of the big partners that we work a lot with in supply chains and for different customers all around the world. And actually, I personally had a conversation with them, I think maybe 2 years ago, and because they actually reached out to us to see if we could work together on an IOTA-related use case, which for us at that point in time didn't make sense. But I think it would be useful to start having these conversations again, because on one hand there is maybe a bit of competition, but at the same time the topic of DPP needs different parties to work together, because the topic in itself is so big. You need to bring together different components of the car to be able to make it work. So yeah, we would definitely be open to explore these opportunities with other partners.
Awesome. Yeah, Happy Camper is probably going to be very happy with that answer. Moving on to his next question, and this one is about the post-quantum solutions that Eviden has explored for digital identity. Will we see any of these solutions integrated into the DPP?
So post-quantum is indeed something that we also do at Eviden. At the moment, we don't have anything we can share on that regarding the solution that we're talking about today. at least not publicly.
Yeah, fair enough. Thank you again for still tackling it. And then, yeah, we already went a little bit into this direction. Does Eviden pitch their DPP solution actively to manufacturers?
The answer is yes. Yeah, we definitely do. We are in contact and speaking to a lot of customers in the manufacturing industry. We are pitching to them. We've been at the Hannover Messe to showcase our solution. So yeah, the answer is yes, we are doing so.
Yeah, lovely to hear. That is going to make the follow-up question much better. And that one is about the feedback that you receive from manufacturers. Maybe you can let us know a little bit what the reception is.
Okay, so the feedback that we get from customers is a bit varied, especially from manufacturers, because some are simply trying to understand, okay, what does the regulation mean for us? How can we comply with it? And that's kind of like the story for them. But there's definitely also ones that are already more advanced in their thinking, and they see this as an opportunity to position themselves better in the circular economy, because that's definitely something that DPPs will bring. It's not just regulation, it's about being ready for the circular economy that is to come. And our job at Eviden is also to work very closely with our existing customers, but certainly also with new customers, to explain to them the value that it can bring, not just, complying with the regulations, but to be able to capture the value that the circular economy unlocks. And I think personally, that some of our manufacturers are already seeing that they see this as an opportunity to develop new business models. They're ready to set themselves apart from the rest of the market, to do more for consumers. And they are looking to move on that. And these are big undertakings, because anyone would do well to remember that DPP in itself is so large. It's of significant impact to the core business of manufacturers. It's not something that they can just do on the side, or that they can do in an isolated corner. It really touches their core business, and they are actively trying to understand what it means to them.
Yeah, very interesting. You already touched upon some points here that I want to ask you about now, and that is basically, do businesses want to front run the legislation that is presumably coming up? Or is it really just a sound business decision to be offering an USP of, being able to track your product? Maybe you can give us a little bit on your thoughts here, how the industry is thinking about this.
Yeah, I would really say it's a bit of both, at least at the moment. I think some of the manufacturers will still come around. Some of the customers, they will see that it's not just like regulation and that they have to comply. But there is definitely parties out there that are seeing this as a perfect opportunity to do more with the business, to offer more value to the consumers, to the customers, and that they are pretty advanced in their thinking. I'm very excited for this, because some parties are thinking like, hey, what if we had all this data from batteries? What could we do with that? And that really brings into play the topic of data monetization in a way we have not seen possible. And I would personally also like to see how we can work with IOTA here to really monetize that data of these products together with these manufacturers, and basically unlock that value. That's something I'm very looking forward to see.
Awesome. Yeah. So we are almost at the end of the questions that we picked. So before we are moving on to the closing statements, let's also tackle the customer possibilities once more. We briefly touched upon this topic before, but are there any customers already lined up to be using the DPP?
I have to give a bit of a repetitive answer there, that we are definitely in very intensive discussions with some of our customers, and we're seeing them in different industries. I think also if you go over to the Eviden website, you might get a hint. The website on DPPs, that we are looking at the automotive industry, but also the rest of the discrete manufacturers, and we also for sure have a keen eye on the media industry to see how we can do more there. But yeah, again, these are quite large undertakings. It's a significant business impact for any customer. You basically need an entire ecosystem to play along, and that's no small feat. It's not something you can do in a week. These are definitely like larger discussions, simply because of how big the impact is.
Absolutely, that is making a lot of sense. To also partially satisfy my own curiosity, like what is the best way that the IOTA community can support your efforts here?
I think from the standpoint of Eviden, what we found very interesting, because we have certainly been paying a lot of attention to the social channels, is that we saw some people reaching out to some parties in the market. I think one particular individual reached out to, I think, was an Australian battery manufacturer. We love to kind of see that kind of stuff from the IOTA community. If you guys have good ideas about who could benefit from the joint solution, we would love to hear from you. We're certainly open for that. We have been receiving quite a lot of inbox stuff already about people say like, hey, I have an idea and we can do something together here. And we love to see that. That's what I would say. If you have ideas, please come talk to us. We're open for your feedback.
Lovely to hear.
I would also add a little bit that our partnership is not confined just to digital product passports or digital passports for whatever construction business. But as Constantijn hinted in the beginning, we are looking beyond just passports. So also the other elements where you could benefit from a kind of a borderless backbone for trusted transaction, a borderless backbone for making more efficient the resource usage. So if you have opportunities of that in the corporate and B2B sectors, then please, you can always reach out to me and of course to Constantijn. So maybe there is
absolutely, yeah.
We will follow that up. Of course, that there are various time zones, immediate tactical things and more strategic ones. So we cannot promise that every project proposal will lead to a grant or an accelerator or a funding or a project. But definitely collecting and sensing and gauging, with a little bit of yardstick, the interest of the community would also help us kind of measure the demand side of our joint endeavor.
Yeah, and I would certainly say indeed it's not bound to the topic of DPP, because in this case with DPP we are using IOTA as the technology that will function as our engine. But IOTA, of course, is a digital infrastructure, and for different use cases completely outside the scope of DPP, it could have a different role that is very useful. So maybe this time it's an engine, maybe next time it's a glue, maybe the time after it's something else yet again, and we are open for these conversations because simply we think we can do a lot more. We need to create a better digital world of tomorrow, and I think IOTA is one of the perfect infrastructure puzzle pieces that one might apply in various use cases.
Awesome, yeah. We are approaching the 1 hour mark shortly, so I think it's a good time to wrap it up. Thank you everybody for joining us tonight. Thank you especially for everybody asking questions. Couldn't have done the AMA without you. And of course, Constantijn, thank you so much for joining us. Christoph and Dominik, of course, as well. Any closing statements that you want to take people away from this AMA? Now's a good chance for that.
I mean, from my side, I think it's really exciting that all of this really started from members within the community, right? Constantijn and some other team members, I think Tomasz, right, who were part of the IOTA community, then joined Eviden, and I think Jelle was also really helpful in helping facilitate the connection to Eviden and keeping them on the track with telling them about DID and our efforts there. So I think this just really shows the power of the community and the power that all of you here have as well to really have an impact together with us. So it's not always just about the IOTA Foundation necessarily, but it's all about the things that we can create together. I think there's really something really powerful about IOTA, and that's one of the main reasons why I'm so excited about working on IOTA still after more than a decade, right? Because for me, IOTA is a project, for one, that can really have a huge impact in the real world, but it's also about scaling this impact, right? Because it's not just about a foundation with 120 people driving this impact, but it's about thousands of members that are part of a community that share a common vision of making the world a better place through the technologies that we are creating. And that is really empowered to do that, right? Anybody can just build on top of IOTA and create new applications or approach partners, create startups and launch new products. And I think that's a really empowering and a really exciting thing to see. And so I would really encourage everybody to also think about how you can participate here if you aren't already doing that. About the Eviden product passport specifically, right, the battery passport, I think we'll definitely continue to communicate very, very actively with the community and also share updates, especially once we hit some major milestones like it going live on the mainnet and also customers and stuff like that, because I think there will also be some very exciting ways for the community to then also be kept in the loop and potentially even participate in that. So I think all of you will definitely be kept in the loop on what's happening.
Yeah.
So keep you posted.
Yeah, I can already tell that there will be more communication from Eviden around the EDPS in the coming future. We have some marketing efforts lined up to keep talking about what we're doing and the news that we can bring. But yeah, I fully adhere to your message, Dom. As a IOTA community member, it's really possible to go from an idea to a full partnership. If you set your mind to it, the IF is definitely very responsive to ideas, to talking with you. So I would indeed encourage everyone here, all your friends, everyone in the IOTA community, talk to them, encourage them. There's great people in the IOTA community like Jelle that are very, very helpful with insights. Even if there's some things that you don't know, there's a lot of resources out there that you can make use of, and it can lead to great things.
Yep.
Maybe I have one single sentence wish of the community. Our partnership has just begun, and everyone who is following me on social media knows that I can be very perseverant. So I will maintain. I was always said I'm into IOTA for strategic reasons. So that's the long term. So we need a little bit of time to get that working right now. So the real work for us internally, which no one of the community will see, of course, because that's our business, will start tomorrow at 3:00, because this is one of the first meetings we have to get everything going to ramp that up. So we will need a little bit of time, but I promise to the community that I will inform them, and you know me that I rather post too much than too little about the progress as far as I can tell, and it makes sense. So we need a little bit of time to get things moving, but as Dom and Constantijn said and promised, we will keep everyone informed about the progress and the milestones. But it's not we are not ready tomorrow, and we will not have the next customer next week as an announcement. This is corporate, but when we have a customer, it will be lasting real world adoption. That's here to stay.
Yeah, and I would say maybe to that as well, that sometimes I feel personally that IOTA gets a little bit too little recognition for what you're trying to do. But there's definitely things moving, even if you can't see them directly, even if you're wondering like, hey, I've not heard about this a little while. Well, some things just take time. But Eviden is not the only piece of the puzzle here. And there's more things in play for sure. I think I'll leave that with you, Dom and Christoph.
Yeah, absolutely. Patience is key, but in the end, it will always work out, right? And this is one of the prime examples of that. And we're excited to see what's coming next.
Next is the moon, of course, isn't it?
Yeah, it sounds like we are all leaving the space with well-managed expectations.
Yes.
Great. Yeah, so that just leaves me with saying thanks once again for everybody showing up, everybody asking questions. Thank you, Constantijn. Thank you, Christoph. Thank you, Dominik. Yeah, let us know how you like this AMA. If you like it, we can certainly do more of those types. And yeah, catch everybody on Discord. Have a great, well, depending on where you are, in my case, a good evening.
Yep. Thank you, Jonathan, for hosting us.
Thanks. Thanks for the questions. Really good ones. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Christopher.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Constantijn.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for having
everyone.
us. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.